Sports Day is brought to you by Barton Community College. Explore your future and get started now. Visit gobarton.com.
Okay, Sports Day in 3, 2, 1.
You know, Ulysses is kind of a tough team to figure out, both offensively and defensively, just because they've played gauntlet of a schedule. You know, they played Chanute. They started with one of the top 4A teams, and then they run through the Western Athletic Conference gauntlet of Hayes and Gardens. So they've played some dang good teams, and they come out and they play well.
Oh, well, secondary-wise, we've been going back to the basics and really working on our technique and our job on all of our coverages, because for the past couple weeks we haven't really had a good test in the secondary, and this week should be another good test for us and show us how good we really are back there.
You know, maybe it hasn't gone their way of late, yet that's too good of a staff, too good of a program and everything, and a roster that, it's going to be a big test for us down there.
It's a great opportunity for this team. I'm very excited to be able to, go down there and, play in front of the crowd and, try to bring home, a dub for this team. Get us back on the right track, and, I'm excited.
When you go up against the other great quarterbacks in the league, you always want to win. You always want to compete. Josh is a great guy. He's a great quarterback, physically talented, can throw, can run, can really do it all. But he's a great dude too.
It's one of the most exciting parts of the program. I think this year we have kind of taken on a little bit of this, mental toughness side of the game, and we've spent a lot of time not necessarily on the court, but in a classroom and learning different ways to be successful not only on the court but in life. These girls have really bought into it.
Handoff Robinson up the middle of the line, heading towards the goal line and in! Touchdown! Touchdown Washington! The first career rushing touchdown for Brian Robinson Jr.
Pitch swing, and there's a high fly left field, driven back, now it's headed for the Crawford boxes, and is gone! He's done it again! Alvarez to the opposite field, a two-run shot.
I'd like to get our own little walk-up songs here. Kind of like baseball. Can we get each coach get his own little walk-up? I want the outfield. Your love. I'm Charlie Blackman. Josie's on her vacation far away. See, there you go.
Oh, boy.
Okay, what a way to start Sports Day with Lyles Lashley singing Outfield. And if you've ever been to a Rockies game, you know that's Charlie Blackman's walk-up song, and Kurzfield goes nuts when that happens.
As long as he's bringing home conference titles, he can come and do that.
Okay, all righty. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sports Day. I'm Mike Hesher. The other voice you just heard was Mike Corson, as Steve Webster is off this afternoon, so we'll bring you Sports Day. We got a packed show today. We'll start with Sports in Kansas's Chet Kuplan after, of course, we finish the sounds of the past 24 hours. We'll talk to the Barton bowling coach, Mike Perry. He's going to be in studio with a player. And then we're going to talk to Great Bend girls coach, Zach Bartel. And you just heard the sounds of the past 24 hours, which were this. First up was Aaron Beck from Great Bend High School talking about the Panthers tonight as they play host to Ulysses. And a win could possibly clinch them a home game in the playoffs.
Yep, so Great Bend setting it. There's 3 teams tied, so basically 6 through 8 at 4 and 2. So you figure you need at least one more win to stay in that top 8 and get a home win. I was feeling real confident about that, but like Coach said yesterday, Ulysses has played a brutal schedule. Garden, Hayes, the last couple. I think 4 of their 5 losses are against 5-1 teams.
Well, that'd be a big test tonight for the Panthers.
Closer than it looks when you see the record.
Exactly, yeah. You think Ulysses 1-4 or 1-5, you're thinking, okay, this could be a blowout, but what it sounds like, it will not be.
Definitely Great Bend will have to show up. I would still bigger school on home turf with something to play for, but don't sleep on it.
Something to play for the first time in a couple years. The second voice you heard, that was from Cole Steiner. He is a defensive back and running back for Hoisington as they get ready to take on Larned tonight. I think Hoisington's favored in that one, but don't sleep on the 3-3 tribe.
Yeah, Hoisington, once they get into the Central Kansas League, they've kind of had the run the last several years, and yeah, like you said, I would expect Hoisington to be a little bit favored in that one.
The third voice you heard there was from Lance Leipold, and KU will go with backup quarterback Jason Bean this weekend under center as Jalen Daniels is out, as KU will be in action tomorrow at 11 o'clock. You can hear that game on 106.9 of the Hits.
Yeah, I wonder if Jalen ever heard about his separated shoulder, but Bean came in last week, big game, threw 4 touchdowns in the second half. First time a KU quarterback had done that since 2008. So they say he is versatile, so we'll see in a full game if he can run like Daniels can.
But this is the Sooners. I know they're 3-3. Is there going to be a mind game issue with KU? Can KU get over that hurdle, I guess?
Yeah, hopefully they approach it like anybody else. You got to think Oklahoma's is coming in white hot. They look super good the first 2-3 weeks of the season. I thought maybe national title contenders, and now they're at the bottom of the Big 12. So I do believe the talent is there, and KU should not overlook that.
As I said, the kickoff is tomorrow at 11 o'clock on 106.9 The Hits as KU takes on 3-3 Oklahoma. Then we heard from Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes as the Chiefs take on the Bills on a Sunday. You can hear that game on 104.3 The Point, pregame at 2 o'clock. And Mahomes and the Bills, boy. I got to go with the Bills. I think they're a better team. I'm not saying that would happen in the playoffs, but for this regular season game, I think the Bills just have a little bit more motivation.
Yeah, so I saw some memes yesterday about Allen having nightmares with 13 seconds left on the clock, and Mahomes is in the puff of bad dreams. So, yeah, they've got all the extra motivation. That's the game of the year thus far, so block off your schedule Sunday and let's hope for a good game.
I hope it's close. I mean, I hate to see it get blowout either way. I just want to see a good game, unlike the Sunday night football game or the Thursday night football game, which there was a touchdown scored last night, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and I actually watched parts of it, and Chicago had a chance to win it on the last play of the game. If the guy would have caught it, he would have scored, but he bobbled it and kind of fell out of bounds or out of the end zone.
Oh, we also heard from Shelley Duvall. She is the Great Bend High School volleyball coach.
Yep, down in Liberal. She said her first time down there. That's crazy, but
she's never gone to Liberal?
As a coach, she has not.
Really?
So, I used to make that trip. So, yeah, they gained some momentum with the big home wins on senior night against Phillipsburg and Smith Center. So, getting into the postseason now, you hope they can go down there and keep up the momentum.
And then we had some play-by-play from the Commanders as Brian Robinson rushed for a 1-yard touchdown that gave the Commanders the 12-7 lead and the win eventually over the Bears, Chicago. And Brian Robinson was the individual who was shot about 6-7 weeks ago, and he's already back playing. That's quite a comeback story, in my opinion.
Medicine's a big deal these days. It never fails. I mean, look what Alex Smith, speaking of the Commanders, but I mean, he didn't really play, but the fact that he got to keep his leg and his life.
Have you seen his leg? I saw some pictures of his leg. That's just gruesome, and this was after it healed.
It's definitely a conversation piece.
That's
he's been all over telling about his story.
Okay, and then we heard from Yardan Alvarez, who hit the 2-run homer for the Houston Astros as they came away with a 3-2 win over the Cleveland Guardians. As Alvarez, no, they did not play the Guardians; they played Seattle. The Guardians are in action right now, so that's Alvarez is having a huge series as far. That's his second big 2-run homer of that series.
I think he's the guy who has SpongeBob SquarePants walk-up music. Speaking of walk-up music, so for him to come out and beat you, that's got to... I just want to know where the trash cans are this year.
Reference to as my daughter, who is a baseball, the cheaters?
Yeah.
As she calls them. I'm like, okay.
You kind of got the cheaters versus kind of America's darling with the Mariners who haven't been relevant for a while. So,
okay, I did not hear the trivia question. Who now has the longest... who has been out of the playoffs the longest? I heard a question. My initial reaction was Pittsburgh, the Pirates. I know we have a person in the station who is a Pirates fan, but I wasn't for sure.
I thought I heard him say it was Seattle.
Well, they were, but now with Seattle winning, who holds that record now? Or distinct?
Has Cincinnati been relevant?
That's a good. They had 4 questions, and it's the 4 major sports in America is what they go off of. So, but Pittsburgh was the one that came to my mind. But
I always like to plug this. There's a Macklemore. He's kind of a rapper, but kind of not. Has a song about baseball called, and now I forget the name of the song, but it is about collecting baseball cards. Dave Niehaus, the late voice of the Mariners. So in the middle of that song, he has the call from the last time the Mariners were in the playoffs. Great song, great video.
You shared that with me, didn't you? Yeah.
It is called My Oh My, based off of what Dave Niehaus used to say.
Yeah, he was pretty good. And then, as we talked about briefly, Lyles Lashley singing Your Love by the outfield. And as I've said, if you've ever been to Kerrs Field and Charlie Blackmon comes to the plate. They play, that's his walk-up song, and then they just blank out Tonight, and the 40,000 people that are in Coors Field all shout Tonight at the same time. It's quite interesting.
And I was told when we started this that Lashley might want that, but it was truly Pavlonian. You just say outfield and he'll start singing. But if he's not careful, we're going to go Josh Reddick walk-up music and play some Wham. Careless Whisper.
Okay. I don't think he will like that as well, will he?
Everybody likes that. It's not good for sports radio.
Okay. As I mentioned, coming up on this day, Sports Day today, Sports in Kansas, we'll talk to Chet Kuplan. That'll be coming up in 3 or 4 minutes. And Mike Perry is bringing in a guest. He's the head coach of the Barton bowling team. And I probably mispronounced his name, but the Great Bend High School tennis coach is
Zach Bartel.
Bartel, that's what I was thinking. Okay, he'll be in. He'll be on Mike Corson's On the Prowl. And then, let's see, we do have some headlines going on today. There is actually a baseball game in action, and it looks like the Yankees have a 2-0 lead over the Guardians, and there are 2 out in the bottom of the second inning. You had some stats on Bieber, the pitcher, and it didn't hold up so well in the first inning.
Yeah, he has a paltry 11-11 record, but 2.32 ERA. So I was hoping with him and Tristan McKenzie going the next game, the Guardians could get back on top of this thing. But looks like New York's being New York.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was, what did we fit? Giancarlo Stanton?
Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, and he hit the 2-run homer, the first 2 outs in the bottom of the first, and then a single and a blast, and the Yankees lead it 2-0, and that's the way they normally score.
And of course, he's the guy that several years ago took the fastball in the cheek.
Ouch.
So he's the one that kind of started the side face mask to give the players extra protection.
Looking at action in the Big 12 this weekend, last night there was a game as Baylor defeated, that was the last meeting. Let's see. They don't have the score on there, but I know they played last night. Where's that at? Well, let's switch to football. High school football. I got that one right here. Okay, woo. You gotta love live radio. In the other, we talked about Great Bend and Ulysses tonight. Other action in the Western Athletic Conference. Liberal at 2-4 travels to Hayes, and then Garden City and Dodge City 5-1, 3-3. Garden City's the 5-1 team playing Wichita. We talked briefly about that. What do you think of that deal? All traveling to Wichita to play the Hatchet game.
I mean, it was brilliant to put the Holy War schools down there because they're both Wichita schools. I think it'll be a neat opportunity for the kids. Be curious, especially with Dodge record, to see if they can fill up the place.
That will be interesting. In the Central Kansas League, we heard from Cole Steinert as the Hoisington Cardinals will travel to Larned to take on the Indians. Hoisington's 4-2. Larned is 3-3. That is the Central Kansas League matchup. Other action in the CKL. Pratt 5-1 takes on Nickerson at 1-5. This ought to be a good one. 6-0 southeast of Saline versus 0-6 Lions. So that could be a running clock game pretty quick.
And I've become quite a fan of Southeast of Saline over the years with the track kids. But, yeah, they've turned into a football powerhouse, too, so that's not a good...
And do you know where Southeast of Saline is at?
Gypsum, Kansas, right outside Salina.
My dad went to Gypsum, Kansas. My dad graduated from Gypsum High School.
I used to deliver books up there.
Did you really? It's actually a combination of Gypsum, Assaria, Fall. There's like several little communities in the area that now make up Southeast of Saline.
All right, where's El Saline?
Brookville.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I travel Old Highway 40 occasionally. Heston at 4-2 takes on Chapman 2-4. Halstead 3-3 takes on the newcomer favorite Ellsworth, coming in with a record of 6-0. And Chet Kuplan talks a little bit about the Bearcats coming up.
Yeah, I was just looking at them. 21 points allowed all year. Most of those were last week against Russell. I think they're probably shoe-ins this week, but then we're looking ahead to that Southeast of Saline
They
game.
play Southeast of Saline next week. That will be interesting because it is expected Ellsworth will be 7-0, but, you know.
And I might end up at that. Should be the biggest game in the area that week. So
you think Catch It Kansas will send you that way?
If somebody doesn't beat me to it.
Oh, okay. So that's a pecking order. How far are you up on the pecking order?
For this area, pretty decent because a lot of our guys don't travel. But
okay.
Yeah, that's getting to the, especially if it's in Saline County, maybe somebody up there will snap it up.
And the other, there's Smoky Valley's at Hillsboro, and then Kingman is also still undefeated, 6-0. They take on Haven at 4-2. Other area 11-man games tonight. Ellenwood 2-4 is at Medicine Lodge. They're also 2-4. Phillipsburg 2-4 will take on Russell 3-3. The Broncos have been a little bit of a surprise this one. this year. And then TMP takes on Norton in Norton. TMP is 3-3 and Norton is 4-2. Some of the 8-man games in the area. Central Plains coming off their first victory of the year last week against Otis Bison. They will take on Buckland. Otis Bison at 0-6 will take on Wilson, 1-5. Maxville, after their big win over La Crosse last week, remains undefeated at 6-0. They take on Skyline at 1-5. Kinsley's 3-3. They will travel to St. John at 1-5. Trigo Community, 3-3, will travel to La Crosse to take on John Webster's 4-2 ball club. And South Barber will take on Stafford. Both teams at 6-0. We talked to the head coach of Stafford earlier this week, but both those ball clubs are 6-0. That could be a big one in Stafford. Any comments on that one? I know that's kind of out of our area, but not really. But
it's just new power versus old power. South Barber's been legit for years, so Stafford will. They've got those two big guys. That's a wild card.
That's crazy. Yeesh. And then 6-man games. Can't forget about the 6-mans. Southern Cloud 1-5 takes on Pawnee Heights at 1-5, and Weston 2-5 takes on Chase. Chase looking for their first win of the season. That has been a look at your schedule tonight, and this is Sports Day. It's brought to you by Barton Community College and Barton Community College Athletics. Get ahead with online or dual credit classes at Barton Community College. Earn a certificate or associate degree while in high school. Learn more at gobarton.com. We'll be back and talk with the guru of high school football in the state of Kansas, Chet Kuplan. You're listening to Sports Day on 1590 KVGB at 95.5 FM.
If you're not filling with Cenex Premium Diesel, then you're not giving your fuel system the premium treatment. Cenex Roadmaster XL comes with a more complete additive package for a more complete burn, while restoring your power by up to 4.5% and your fuel economy by up to 5%. Typical number 2 diesel? I guess it covers the basics. Cenex Premium Diesel. Diesel that doesn't mess around.
Contact American Plains Co-op in Great Bend, your certified Cenex distributor today.
One of the great advantages about online classes is you can take them anywhere. I would sit in my room, still in my robe from waking up, and I just try to focus on my classes. From Barton, I kind of took a range of classes from accounting, history, and I took PE1 and PE2 through Barton. They transferred pretty incredible. It helped save money, and it helped save some time, too. Just to think that you can live really anywhere and take these classes, I think it's pretty cool.
It's the Shop at Home for the Holidays $10,000 shopping spree. It's presented by Bauer Computers and Mater Plumbing, Heating, and Air. And today is day number 1. So you can head on out here to Great Bend Appliance, Furniture, and Sleep Source. 10th and Morton, you got till 5 o'clock today. And Eric, holidays coming up. You guys got a lot to help people out.
Absolutely. Through the 24th, we've got a Serta Fall October sale up to $400 off of iComfort. I've got fireplaces on sale. I've got more furniture in stock than we've ever had. They've actually lowered the ordering time down, so if you special order a couch or something, some of those are only taking 8 weeks now to get instead of the 12 months where we were. I've got new pillows coming in. There's one that smells like lavender. Actually helps you sleep a little bit better. Like I said, we've got just about everything in stock now.
Yeah, this place is packed. Come see it. It's out here 10th and Morton today. Get here by 5 o'clock and you can be today's instant finalist number 1 in the Shop at Home for the Holidays $10,000 shopping spree presented by Bauer Computers and Mater Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And welcome back to Sports Day. I'm Mike Hesher. We're now joined with Sports in Kansas. That is Chet Kuplan, and it's sportsinks.com. You can go there and find out all sorts of information at sportsinkansas.com. And Chet, you talked about Mays Derby last week, and it lived up to its billing. 3 straight 1-point games.
Yeah, what an incredible performance. 7 touchdowns for Avery Johnson. There's a reason that he's the best in Kansas, if not one of the best in the country, going to Kansas State. And really a slugfest between 2 heavyweights, a 6'8 powerhouse in Derby, of course, state runner-up last year, multiple state titles under Coach Clark in the Dynasty. They're 4-2 and lose 52-51. They also lost in OT, their first game of the year, to Manhattan, who remains unbeaten, and then lose to Mays at home. Of course, the Eagles go on the road and win 52-51, and that one in a field goal. But Avery Johnson, just incredible. Of course, Mays has Hutchinson this week. Hutchinson has been a surprise team, and of course, Derby this week has Maize South. But those teams, I would not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if they are representing the west side of the state in the state championship. Of course, a tough path for some of these teams in 5A and 6A with the parity. I think really only the clear-cut path for a lot of these teams who look in 3A is Andale and maybe some of the smaller classifications for certain teams. But other than that, these playoffs coming up here in a few weeks, they're going to be fun. But last week definitely did not disappoint across the state. I was at the Holy War with Capon and Carroll. Incredible atmosphere there. 8606, a record there at Windsurge, the AA, of course, park there for the Minnesota Twins in Wichita. Great atmosphere, great facility, a little bit different seeing football there as compared to seeing a lot of the baseball games I've seen there last year. But, of course, it was fun, a great atmosphere, those two rivals. And it came down to a nail-biter as well. I believe the late 90s, the last time that Capon has won, and Carroll continues to dominate that series, even though it was a very, very close game. There were some standout players in that game, some standout teams, and I think certainly both of those teams are going to be a factor in Class 5A, and I know we'll talk about it here in a bit, but I got to give a shout-out to the local Great Bend Panthers, and this is the team looking for their first above 500 season since 2018. They've won 4 games in a row, and, of course, the last 2 years, not a win. So we've got to give a shout-out to Coach Beck and Great Bend. They've really been opening some eyes out there. Now, I'm not saying they're a major contender or anything like that for a state championship, but all of a sudden you got to factor in this team as a team that could be in contention to win a playoff game or two or be in the mix there, because certainly when you look at the 5A West, Maize obviously is that leader, but other teams you got to look at. Hayes, Goddard, Hutchinson, Valley Center has impressed this year, and even looking at Bishop Carroll and Capon, who I mentioned at 4-2, 3-3, there's a lot of teams really outside of Maize, 5, 6, 7 teams that are all in the mix out there, and I think Great Bend certainly can be one of those teams with a 4-2 record. These playoffs certainly going to be fun.
And we'll just stay with Great Bend. They have Ulysses this week in Garden City in Week 8. I think you're right. I think they have a good chance at this point.
Yeah, and they're going to take on Ulysses and Kate Albert, the head coach out there, and this is a team that's lost 5 games in a row, dominated by Garden City and Hayes the last 2 weeks, Chanute prior to that, and the only game they won was Colby, a 3A opponent in Week 1. So I think they'll be heavily favored this week in the matchup at home. Of course, don't have to go all the way out west. I guess it's not too extremely far west, but to me, it's way out there west. I was at Ulysses a few weeks back doing the Think Before You Post tour. But, a smaller opponent in Class 4A. They play in a 3A league, so Ulysses kind of has to play, teams that they normally wouldn't play because 3A, 2A, 1A are locked in districts, so they can't play their league opponents, so that's why you see them playing some random teams. But, Great Bend is certainly a team that I feel like is on the rise. Of course, Schurman has passed for nearly 850 yards, rushed for nearly 400 more. Council, of course, has been their lead receiver this year, 395 yards, 28 receptions. In addition to that, 3 touchdowns. But really Miller out of the backfield, I think he's really kind of done everything. 625 rush, 201 receive, also some kick returning yards as well. Just a junior on this team, so you got to look at those guys. Even though they're led by a senior quarterback, a senior receiver, they have certainly stood out to me so far this season as a team that we need to talk about, a team that is much improved. Of course, a linebacker, 55 tackles, and the motor kid. I believe I'm maybe saying that name wrong, but he's had a huge year, as well as Jones defensively. Over 50 tackles have really helped elevate that defense along with McMullen defensively for the Great Bend Panthers, who have won 4 football games in a row. Nobody was talking about them coming into the year as being a team with high expectations. And all of a sudden they've quieted some people, including myself. I hope they keep it rolling, and hopefully they can get over 500, above 500, I should say, for the first time since 2018 when they won 8 ball games.
And you've been bragging about the Eastern Kansas League. We're talking with Chet Kuplan from sportsinkansas.com. That's sportsinks.com. And the Eastern Kansas League. Chet, we have Bishop Miege is ranked 1, St. James Academy is 2, and St. Thomas Aquinas is 3. And the St. James Academy is ranked 2nd with a 3-3 record. You talked about this league all year.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, we've seen Blue Valley North a few years back when they had Graham Mertz as the quarterback. He's now the starter for Wisconsin. Graham, in fact, was the backup at Bishop Miege to Carter Putz, who's one of the best baseball players in the country for Notre Dame. So Graham transfers, goes to Blue Valley North, and they both win titles at their schools. And he was the backup, and he plays for Wisconsin. That gives you an idea how competitive it is. And they both won state titles in 4A, 6A. my point on that is the year that they won, I believe they had 4 losses and they won a state title. We see teams, with 4 or 5 losses go deep in the playoffs because all of a sudden you look at St. James and they've lost 3 games. Well, they lost to Blue Valley Northwest by 14 in week 1. Who's Blue Valley Northwest? They are the 6A state champion that dominated Derby last year. They lost to Blue Valley in week 2, a traditional power. In week 3, they lost to Bishop Miege, who has won 6 out of the last 8 titles. St. James has won the last 2. In week 4, they beat Aquinas. Aquinas won the 2018 title, maybe the favorite this year to win the 4A title, and they beat them. Of course, Aquinas beat who last week? Miege, who is unbeaten. And you look at Miege, they beat St. James. So that's why all these teams are in the mix. And then St. Pius X, they've been in state title games over in Missouri. St. James beats them 2 weeks ago. Then they beat Blue Valley Southwest, a 6A up-and-coming team, 35-28. Well, guess who they have this week? They go to the Stryker Complex, the soccer complex in Wichita that's also a football field, to take on Capon, who I feel like is an under-the-radar team that competed very heavily 1 week ago in the Holy War with Carroll. And all of a sudden, you have those 2 parochial private schools going head-to-head in Wichita this week. So you'll get a mix to figure out, hey, is Capon the real deal, or are these teams in Wichita the real deal, or how is the EKL, really amount to that? You're going to get to figure out Kansas City football versus Wichita football this week. But my point is, the Eastern Kansas League, no matter who you're playing, Blue Valley North is 0-6, for example. I don't feel like they're a horrible football team. Blue Valley Northwest is 2-4. Everybody else, they're all 500 or above, the best record 5-1. And any of those teams, St. James Academy, Blue Valley West, Northwest, Blue Valley, Aquinas, or Miege, any one of those teams on any given day can beat anybody and win a state title. That's how good the league is.
Okay, we moved down to 2A. Beloit lost a couple games early, but they've won 4 straight. And you kind of said, don't overlook the Trojans because they were in the state championship game 1 year ago.
Yeah, they have great line play led by the Seifert kid, Grady Seifert up front, the Sports in Kansas 2A Defensive Player of the Year. They've won 4 games in a row. Benson Burnt, their running back, was battling injuries early on, but the Aerosmith kid out of the backfield has just stepped in nicely and done an incredible job. A nice win on the road at Norton, a very tough physical team, 28-6. They're against Concordia this week. Of course, Concordia, a team down a little bit this year compared to where they were at. They'll be heavily favored in that one than at Thomas More Prep. So I expect this Beloit Trojan team to be primed for the playoffs at 6-2. Of course, early losses to Ellsworth and Southeast and Saline, and Ellsworth, they keep it rolling. Just 15 points allowed all season. A very improved Russell team that they beat on the road last week, 18-15. They'll be heavily favored against Halstead. I believe Coach Homolka will be on our All Access show with Bethany Bowman this week, powered by Mammoth Sports Construction. And he'll talk, of course, about his players. They're 6-0 start, I believe, for the first time since 1984. Now, I have them going 7-0. The big question will be, are they the real deal? Because they'll have to figure out in Week 8, because guess what? They play Southeast of Saline, led by Coach Gibbart and his sons, who have been outstanding, Michael Murray. They're at Lions this week. Southeast of Saline, in my opinion, is that heavy favorite on the western part of the state. Earlier this week, I was in Seneca, Kansas, presenting up there. We talked to Nemaha Central and Coach Klatsik. They are incredible on the east part of the state. I think they are hands down the favorite. They had 6'4", 276 up front, 6'6", 290, and 6'5", 210, along with a 6'2", 230-pound, running back at a 2A high school there. Of course, that is the consolidation of Baileyville B&B, who was a powerhouse in 8-man for years, and Nemaha Valley, who had a pretty darn good program. You combine those two, they remain in 2A. They're in the district with Sabetha, I feel like, as a team. They have Riley County this week. I look for Nemaha Central on the east, and, of course, on the west, I am looking for that Southeast of Saline team. We mentioned Ellsworth will play them, but also other contenders to look at. You mentioned Beloit, Boisington as well at 4-2. Boisington, a team, of course, 4-2 on the season, and guess what? They dominated Lakeland 1 week ago, 44-0, handing them their first loss. Really giving an eye-opener of how tough that the Central Kansas League is. Boisington, I feel like, still very much a contender under Coach Baird. Running game heavy. I know they passed it a lot in a few games this year, but Central Kansas League, the toughness and who they play really helps prep those teams for the Class 2A playoffs. Don't count out the Cardinals of Boisington in 2A.
Talking with Chet Kuplan from sportsinkansas.com. That's sportsinks.com. And Chet, as always, you kind of steal some of my thunder. I had notes about Ellsworth and Russell, and I was going to talk about Hoisington as well. So let's go a little further west. Wichita County is the #1 team in 8-man Division I, and they beat Meade this past week.
Yeah, Meade, defending state champion. Of course, Meade moved down to the 8-man ranks. Coach Luters, now at Liberal, was the coach there last year. They kind of came out of nowhere, won a state title. Graduated some star power, but have some guys back this year on the team. But the Hermosillo brothers out of Wichita County have been incredible for them. Leota, of course, still in our time zone, but really close to mountain time out there when you get out there. They have dominated competition so far this year, I believe scoring at least 56 points in every single game this season. In fact, the last 5 games, they've scored 56 or 57, and they scored 76 the first game of the year. They're against Sublette and South Gray. I think they will easily dominate competition from here on out as far as regular season. Brant Douglas is an offensive mastermind. Just a few years ago, we saw them in the shootout in the state championship game against Little River in that fantastic contest. Now, all of a sudden, this year, this division opens up a little bit. A lot of people like Hill City, a team, Hoxie and Hill City, on that part of the state, and they played each other 20-14, where Hoxie beat them just a few weeks ago. They're in the same district. I like a lot of those teams. Little River is a factor as well, but I think Wichita County is hands down the favorite, although a lot of people talking about Maxwell and Ryan Kuckelman, a 6'6", 210-pound quarterback. They are 6-0, and they blanked a very good lacrosse team, who shout out to Coach Webster just a few weeks ago, went over 100 wins. 50-0 last week. I did not see that happening in any way, shape, or form. The Morgan kid and lacrosse have been putting up big numbers this year, and I know that they lost to Victoria early on, but I was a bit surprised. Is Maxville the real deal? So if Wichita County is going to have a contender out there, maybe it'll be Maxville. The good news for Wichita County is the power of 8-man football, and that's no disrespect to 8-man 1. The power this year at the top, I feel like, has shifted to 8-man 2. Why? Canton Galva jumped down to 8-man Division 2, and guess what? They have a Division 1 FBS player named Jet Vincent that has the all-time career record in interceptions. He was at Wheatland Grinnell last year. He transfers in. His dad gets a principal job, and he replaces Tyson Struber, one of the best of all time that's now at Kansas State. So you lose one of the best of all time in 8-man to gain one of the best of all time in 8-man. What are the odds of that happening in back-to-back years? Two of the top players of all time in 8-man history being on that same Canton Galva team. They are the real deal. However, they aren't the favorite because Axtell is. Axtell is a defending state champion led by Isaac Detweiler. There's about 38 kids in that school, and I think every single one of them plays football in that school. They're incredible. They've only allowed 26 points over their last 5 football games. They beat Hanover, state power Hanover. I know they're down a little bit, but they beat them 62-14. So a collision course at some point is Canton Galva and Axtell. The bad part of it is that they are going to have to face each other before the state championship. They're both on the East.
You're right, Chet. We're talking with Chet Kuplan from SportsInKansas.com. We had both the coach from Maxville and lacrosse on last week for Sports Day, and you're right. I don't think either one of those coaches saw that 50-0 contest coming. About ready to wrap things up. Any final thoughts on this week? Anything that we missed that you need to add or what you're looking for this weekend?
Mill Valley versus Olathe North is a game on the eastern part of the state. Maybe not familiar to your territory, but if you're a statewide follower of this, you got to look at that game. Mill Valley 6-0. They have won 5 state championships since 2015 under Joel Appleby. They transitioned over to the Sunflower League a few years ago. Now you're taking on state power Olathe North, of course, the home of Darren Sproles, studs like that. Of course, the Simmons kid who now plays for the Cardinals. They've had so many good players there. It's 6A versus 5A. I believe it's in Mill Valley. We're going to figure out about a lot of those teams there to see if they are the real deal, because I think a lot of people think Olathe North is that contender on the East in 6A. Mill Valley certainly the favorite on the 5A part of the state. But so far, a lot of teams have been as good as advertised. A big matchup out of 1A, Inman and Conway Springs as well. I know Conway Springs has some losses, but they're not your typical Class 1A program since moving down. And I remember when I was in high school, they were a 3A powerhouse. So it's crazy to see some of these schools grow, some of these schools shrinks, and classifications change over time. But always, I appreciate being on your show, and I appreciate, of course, Mammoth Sports Construction, Jock Snitch, and Watco, all of our partners for making it possible for us to come on appearances and talk high school football across the state. And be sure to follow all of our platforms on all of our social media platforms at Sports in Kansas. As always, we appreciate it, and have a great Friday night.
Well, Chet, thank you. And I will tell you, I may not have known much about Eastern Kansas football when I started back with Eagle Radio and KVGB, but you sure have helped me understand what Eastern Kansas football is about. I thank you for all that. And you have a great week, sir.
We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All righty, that's Chet Kuplan from sportsinkansas.com. We'll be right back with more Sports Day after this.
Voice of the Barton Cougars. Attending sporting events for Barton Community College is great, but did you know you can support the athletic teams even further by getting involved with the Cougar Booster Club? The Boosters help with fundraising for equipment and facility upgrades to give Barton athletes every opportunity to keep succeeding at the regional and national levels. Join the Cougar Booster Club as an individual or business. Call 620-792-9377. Become a booster today. Go Cougars.
Venture Corporation is now hiring for a CDL tanker operator driver. We'll operate the same truck all week. New higher wages with flexible hours, no weekends, and time and a half over 40 hours. Blue Cross and Blue Shield health insurance, vision insurance, Section 125 cafeteria plan, 401k retirement plan with match. Venture Corporation is an equal opportunity employer. Women and minorities encouraged. Apply in person at 214 South Highway 281 in Gray Bend. Online at venturecorpks.com or call Leslie at Venture Corporation. Homegrown, family owned.
When your seasonal allergies bring on the runny nose and itchy eyes, the experienced team at the University of Kansas Health System Convenient Care Walk-In Clinic will provide the care you need. They can treat any minor illness or injury. No appointment needed. Care is available 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Visit the Convenient Care Walk-In Clinic at St. Rose Medical Pavilion for quality care when you need it. Learn more at kansashealthsystem.com/Great Bend.
The high-rise renovation is nearly complete. The final touches are being put on the apartments and the common areas. So now's a great time to fill out an application. Our building is close to shopping, dining, and entertainment and provides stunning views of downtown. Rent is based on your income with all utilities included. Apply now and make the high-rise your new home. Learn more or apply at gbhaks.com. Great Bend Housing Authority, equal housing opportunity.
It's Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM. Presented by Barton Community College and the Cougar Athletic Department.
And welcome back to Sports Day. I'm Mike Hesher. I'm joined with Mike Corson. And now we are very privileged to have a couple of Barton Community College people in. We have a coach, that's Mike Perry, and then we have a Great Bend sophomore at Barton, or from the bowling team. That's Bryce Moore and Mike Perry. And gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. Okay, Bryce, got a little closer to the mic. Okay, got a little closer to the mic there. All right. We don't want to have a situation like I did last week. So, Coach, you're into the season. You went to Dallas last week, is that correct? And then you have Wichita this week?
Yeah, that's right. Last Wednesday, we hosted Ottawa. They came to town, and we were able to have our first ever home match, and that went really well. And then we loaded up the bus and headed down to Dallas and competed against a bunch of, I would say SEC teams like LSU, Louisiana Lafayette was there, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, a lot of Big 12 schools. We went down there, and we had a really good showing from our ladies team. On Saturday, they placed third. And they placed fourth on Sunday, and my guys' team placed fifth on Saturday and fourth on Sunday. And Bryce Moore was those are two separate tournaments, and he was on the all-tournament team, which means he's a top 5 bowler there on Saturday as well as Sunday. So he brought home 2 trophies.
And Bryce, you are You are from Great Bend originally. You've been bowling a long time. What is about the sport that interests you?
Just the competitiveness. Between just bowling against different people and meeting different people, it's just the different personalities of bowling. It's really interesting to meet new people.
Mike Corson?
And Coach, we kind of talked about recruiting quarterbacks, running backs. Everybody has tape. Bowlers, to me, they just kind of raising their wrists. So what is a coach looking for to bring in kids to the next level?
Well, first of all, if you ask Jim Mayberry, I need left-handers, lots of left-handers. But seriously, what I do is I just look at the quality of the kid. You're coming away from home for the first time. I've been fortunate to recruit all Kansas kids. This is our 4th year, so we have that. They don't have to worry about going home, getting homesick as much. But I look just for good kids that want to go to school first, bowl second, and will buy into our program and are willing to learn. Scores are scores, and we talked a little bit earlier about how high school is kind of misleading. You can be a 230, 220 average kid, something like that in high school, and then come to college and you're used to throwing all those strikes, but your spare shooting ability is not there, and you struggle, and it's very difficult it's humbling, I should say, to go from a 230 to where you're at 180 is a good game.
And then, is it Bryce?
Yes, sir.
So, you grew up in Great Bend. You got one bowling alley to you. That's the center of the bowling world. How cool to see maybe even the Wichita ones, but definitely some of the facilities down in Dallas and the bigger ones you guys go to.
I mean, it's awesome. You go from like 24 lanes here in Great Bend, and then you drive to Dallas, and the bowling alley is twice the size of here in Great Bend, and it's just mind-blowing. Like, some of them have like 2 stories to them, which is just absolutely insane.
And Coach, you were telling us now Walnut Bowl has the ability, but before you walked in the door, we didn't know some of the technology that helps coaches and athletes. We're going oil patterns, spins on the ball. How much has that changed the game?
Well, it's changed it a lot for us. We used to just go out and say, stand here and hit this target. When we first started out, we would put a sheet across the lane with a hole cut out, and we weren't caring about where the ball was going into the pins. We wanted to know if you could hit that target. Then we elevated a couple years ago to what they call board boxes, which would flash the number when it went by, when the ball went by. And then this year we upgraded with the help of Jim Mayberry and Trevor Rolfs out at Barton. We have updated to Specto, which is a highly advanced system that the kids can put it on their own phone. They can track what they're doing. We can see what they're doing on the computers, and we can see every shot. So if you want to see if where their ball is going at an entry point and exit point, like to pick up 10 pins or 7 pins or strike shots, you can do that now. And somebody can't say, well, I'm hitting it. I'm hitting my target. No, you're 2 boards off. And in college, you have to be within, if we're saying you want to hit the third arrow, which is the 15 board, you have to be either on 16, 15, or 14. If you are anywhere outside of that, it's not going to work. And in high school, the oil patterns were easier, and you had a shot that might be 6 to 8 inches wide, and now you have a shot that's 2 inches wide.
We're talking with Mike Perry and Bryce Moore. Mike Perry is the head coach of the Barton bowling team, and Bryce is a sophomore at Barton from Great Bend. And Bryce, how much are you using this? It's like sabermetricians in baseball. They're doing exit velocity and stuff. Are you using this technology quite a bit?
Yeah, I'm using it about every single day that I'm able to practice. I mean, it's usually Monday through Friday, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. And where do you plan on going from here?
I've not decided if I want to continue or if I just want to go straight to work, but I am looking into a few colleges right now.
Okay.
And Bryce, he's got when he walked in, I said, man, you brought in somebody who can't even bowl. He's got his left hand taped up, but he's a righty. But from bowling myself, some balance involved. Does an injury that's not on your bowling hand affect you?
Oh, 100%. This is taking some getting used to. It's really quite different. I mean, your balance is completely off. You just kind of have to revamp what you're doing with an injury like this.
And so I was joking that bowling is just lifting your right arm, kind of like a handshake. But there is science, like you guys are breaking it down by boards, and you talked about the oil patterns. How do you know, or how do you adjust when you see a different oil pattern?
Well, that's where it pays off to have Jim Mayberry on my coaching staff and Todd Pfeiffer. Todd's excellent with ball equipment and how to read the lanes, and Jim is too. And since Jim and his wife Linda and Jay own the bowling center and we practice out there, they'll put down shots. And so some days he won't tell us what it is, and the kids have to figure it out. Some days he said, this is a short pattern, this is a long pattern, this is really flooded, don't get it outside of 5, don't get outside of 10. So we have to go out there and work on that. We have to work on where we're standing, what targets we're hitting, which ball is going to react correctly with the lane conditions. And then, in the old days when I was bowling, you had 2 balls. You had a strike ball and you had a spare ball. These guys, this weekend we can only take 5 apiece, but typically they have at least 6. And it's not, they could throw a 300 with every ball, but it's just what ball fits the right conditions. That's what you're looking for.
And then I'm a straight ball thrower, so I like to hit my head pin just to the right. Are there any straight throwers on the college tour, and how important to get off that head pin? Because every other sport you hit it direct, it's a bullseye, but not in bowling.
Well, that's a great question, Bryce. You want to tackle that?
in today's game, no, not really. There's not many people that throw straight. There'll be some people that will throw it straighter instead of like hooking the whole lane. They will throw it kind of at the pin, but they're still hooked to it. But in today's game, though, there's really nobody that throws straight at the head pin.
We throw straight as we can at our spares. We try to take the lane out of play. So, in instance, if you're a right-handed bowler and you have a 7-pin and you want to throw it by the right gutter and let it go all the way across, and hook all across all the boards and get 7-pin, you could do that in high school. In college, because of all the oil on the lanes and the way it gets pushed down the lanes, sometimes that ball will get the 7-pin. Sometimes it'll hit jump, and it'll jump in front of it, and you miss it. And sometimes it just slides, and it goes right by it. So we're taking the lane out of play as much as we can, and straighter is greater is what I preach on spare shooting.
And then one more from me that you had talked about, the different facilities have different space. I know when Great Bend hosted some postseason, it got really packed out there. Going to be even bigger at the college level. The guys that are with the devices that are looking up and over, how about that?
Yeah, I'd call them trench warfare binoculars, I think is what you would call them. And there are a lot of people hand build them with mirrors and cardboard. You can also buy them. You see people on little paint step stools and paint ladders, and some of them even have chairs that are mounted on top of them. But some alleys, like North Rock, is more built for spectators, and West Acres is not. So the guys this week will be at North Rock. They'll have a little more room. Unfortunately, the girls are at West Acres, which is a good bowling alley too, just doesn't have as much space.
We're talking with Mike Perry. He's the head coach of the Barton Community College bowling team, and also Bryce Moore. He's a sophomore at BCC, and he's a Great Bend native, so to speak. And, Coach, where do you see the sport go? How much has the sport grown since you've been at Barton?
Well, it's grown quite a bit. There's a lot of schools adding it every day. There's going to be some more junior college teams that were getting ready to hop on board, and then that COVID thing hit, so that kind of set that back. But the great thing is we've got so many high school kids now doing this sport, and it gives them an opportunity to go and compete at the collegiate level. And if the bowling centers are willing to work with the colleges, which I can't imagine why they wouldn't be, I mean, I see this sport continuing to grow. And you were talking about you were in Dallas last week. You're in Wichita this weekend. Wichita is your closest event. Yeah, we'll have Wichita, and then we could be up in Topeka and Lawrence the last weekend of October. We go to St. Louis the weekend after this one, and then if we finish up at Hastings, Nebraska, the first weekend in November, and that finishes out our fall semester.
And Bryce, just one more for you. Once again, grew up in Great Bend, but now you're bowling all over the country. How do you balance that as a student, and then just how fun to turn bowling into a chance to travel the country?
I mean, studying is a key part of it. I mean, if you're not studying every day and you're not going to class, then you're going to fall behind in class. And as far as just traveling the country, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of bowling places, even in like Kansas, I've never been to, let alone like out of state. So it's pretty cool to experience all the new places. Okay, we'll wrap up with Mike Perry, and you may have alluded to this. Is there much scouting going on when you're going to Wichita? You know who there is. Okay, you're both shaking your heads. Yes. Yeah, they're scouting. I mean, we kind of know going in who we want to beat. Like obviously this weekend, you have Wichita State and Newman University, both powerhouses. Everybody knows who they are. We want to compete with them when we bowl them head to head, especially the Bakers format, which we think we can beat them at. But we're looking at Iowa Western and Iowa Central because those are the junior college teams we're going to compete at the national tournament. So we want to be competitive with them. So that's we want to beat them if we can or stay even with them. Can you quickly explain the Bakers format? Yeah, the Bakers format is something I really love. We added it to high school bowling here about, 8 years ago. But it's a team aspect where you have 5 bowlers. Everybody gets to bowl 2 frames. Like your best bowler is number 5, so he's also going to bowl the 10th frame, and it's loud. Everybody's cheering. If you have an open, the next guy gets a strike, and then everybody wants to get a double, and then it just starts rolling, and you can really put up some big scores. Well, gentlemen, Bryce Moore from Great Bend and a sophomore at BCC, and the head coach Mike Perry, we do appreciate you coming in this afternoon. Thanks for the swag, Coach. Yeah, exactly. Well, we got to get our name out. Got to get our brand out there. Go Cougars. All righty. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. Well, this is Sports Day. We'll be right back with the final segment. You're listening to Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM.
From the Mayo Money Management Studios, 1590 KVGB Great Bend and 95.5 FM K238CK Hoisington.
When you need to get rid of the pain, you want the best. You need to see Dr. Dan Quillen at Catalyst Therapy and Sports Rehab. Dr. Dan is Barton County's only board-certified clinical specialist in orthopedic physical therapy. No matter your age, when it hurts, he will help. Call Dan at 620-282-4825. That's 282-4825. Excellence-driven, unrivaled results. Catalyst Therapy and Sports Rehab. Inside the Fieldhouse at 9th and Madison in Great Bend.
This is Barton Community College Athletic Director Trevor Rolfs. The Barton Athletic Department is proud to sponsor Sports Day on KVGB, a show that showcases all of our high school student athletes in Central Kansas, some whom will continue their educational and athletic future with us here at Barton. We're excited about the fall sports season that is now underway and invite you to attend a game or a match and experience the rich tradition of Cougar athletics. For complete schedules and results, visit bartonsports.com.
Introducing Fidelity Income Planning. We look at how much you've saved, how much you'll need, and help you build a straightforward plan to generate income, even when you're not working. A plan that gives you the chance to grow your savings and create cash flow that lasts. Plus, you can start, stop, or adjust your plan at any time. Talk to us today so we can help you go from saving to living. Fidelity Brokerage Services, member NYSE, SIPC.
I said chantilly lace and eggshell, not matte.
Colby's Interior Design Consultancy is floored with new clients.
Wait, what am I looking at here? This looks like plaid.
They need an admin with an eye for design and a knack for numbers.
Okay, hey, look, take a look at this. Do those numbers look right?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Screen for quality candidates with the skills your role needs with Indeed assessments. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Sports Day presents On the Prowl with Mike Corson, an inside look at all the sports taking place at Great Bend High School.
Welcome back to Sports Day, 1590 KVGB, 95.5 FM. Mike Corson with Great Bend High School tennis coach Zach Bartel. Coach, tough regional, Class 5A, but more on that in just a second. We only get to talk to you once a week, and basically right after we talked last week, Mike Matheny out the door in Kansas City. Your thoughts?
Well, not shocked. I hadn't really thought about it, but I guess if they let him go, what was it, hours after the last game, then that was pretty much a done deal. I was expecting the pitching coach to be let go, and yeah, I'm not too surprised to see Matheny let go too.
Yeah, hopefully we can do something for next year. Are you watching anybody this in the playoffs?
I guess I'm kind of got some teams I'm rooting against, maybe more than I'm rooting for, but I'd never like to see the Yankees do very well, or the Dodgers, or the Astros for some various reasons, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're saying, America's darling's kind of the Mariners. It's been 20 years.
Sure, yeah, I'd go for them. I was trying to think. There's not many options in the American League that I would go for, but I guess the Mariners would be it.
Yeah, Cleveland's being a divisional team. We watch them enough that, and I kind of like Tito, so maybe them or the Mariners. Definitely no National Leaguers.
Yeah. Did you say the Guardians or the Indians?
I'm still stuck in the past.
I'm making the transition. Yeah, I'd be okay with the Guardians. Just it's been so long. They're the longest team now since winning the World Series, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, since the Cubs won.
They got the longest drought.
Right. Yeah. Tito's the guy to do it.
Could be. Yep.
Well, so you guys ended the season last Saturday in Salina at the Class 5A Regional. Everybody kind of making early exits. I know you knew it was going to be tough, but did you think it was going to be that tough?
I wasn't quite, I guess, sure that the doubles would be as loaded as it was, but our regional really was loaded with doubles. Lots of solid teams. We didn't have a really good chance to get a good seed there. It always comes down to direct wins, indirect wins, and we just didn't have any like significant or signature win. And singles, I thought Wallmeyer got a fair seed at number 8, and she certainly had a chance to knock off her opponent, and she took a set from her, so that was encouraging. She was kind of bummed out about the loss, but I I was happy with how she played.
Great Bend High School tennis coach Zach Bartel. Yeah, kind of a funny season. Your doubles teams comes out really strong, Samantha and Taylor. But then the close of the season, it was your singles player that kept getting the 4th and 5th place finishes. Just kind of how did everybody progress this year?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird flip-flop in the middle of the season, and part of that's just who you face up against. And our doubles started seeing some tougher opponents, and I don't know if our singles saw some easier opponents. I don't think they did, but they just maybe improved a little bit more for whatever reason. The outlook for the future is looking pretty good. We're losing one senior that played varsity for us, Lakin Smith, and she did a lot for us this year. But everyone else is coming back. The end of the season, everyone's always pretty motivated to, work hard and in the off season and especially the summer. So, if we can get that from a lot of these girls, we can have, a lot of them coming back for their second or third year of varsity experience. I think they could make a big jump next year.
Does tennis do anything? Like I know cross country, those kids get out and run. Football, they have all kinds of camps. Is there anything going forward the tennis girls to keep active?
As far as
just getting, strengthening their game.
Sure. Well, we always offer, if they want to hit at any time in the off season, like we can't coach them during the rest of the school year, but we can, set balls out for them or set up a ball machine for them or something. And I don't know, we haven't had a lot of girls take advantage of that, but in the summer we spend a lot of time. We go about 2 days a week in the summer, and Barton has a tennis camp, usually January, February, and we get a few of our girls to go to that sometimes too.
All right. Coach, been fun talking to you all year. Sorry, we were really hoping one would get through to state, but they gave it a nice run. And we will talk to you about the girls next year.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks for joining us. More Sports Day after this.
If you need physical therapy, consider Advanced Therapy in Great Bend and Progressive Therapy in Larned and Hayes.
We had a lady that was having some severe back and hip pain, and we worked with her for about 6 to 7 weeks, and we were able to actually restore greater than 80% of her mobility, and we were able to keep her from actually needing that surgery for about 4 years.
You don't need to hurt. Physical therapy can help. Call Advanced or Progressive Therapy and Sports Medicine to explore your treatment options and get your life back.
Get the latest 5G devices at Nextech Wireless. Now you can get the iPhone 14 Pro and the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus on us, or up to $999 off any other device. And that's not all. You can also get half off a new Apple Watch when you bring your number to us. Nextech Wireless. We are Kansas.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use Closet Box instead? Closet Box is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. Closet Box's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. Closet Box's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. Closet Box has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
Okay, welcome back to Sports Day. Man, what a great show we've had thus far. We're just about out of time. Updating the score from the baseball game. The Yankees are on top of the Guardians, I made that Freudian slip. 2-1 Yankees over the Guardians, and it looks like they're in the top of the fourth. Mike Corson, you have some results from yesterday?
Yeah, real quick, the Lady Panthers repeated as Western Athletic Conference cross-country champs. Addie Nicholson was the individual winner and the MVP. Marissa Boone was second, and all 5 of the scorers placed in the top 11. Caden Esfeld was a 2-time WAC champ, but we knew it was going to be a tough race against the Garden City kid running on his home course as a senior. So Caden got second to that kid. They've gone back and forth. And then I told you the tackle heard around the world. We teased it this morning.
If you haven't seen this, you have to watch this on Zoom.
I put up a picture on our Twitter page on Sports Day KVGB. So Steven Richter, he's the Ellenwood rec director. If Scott Donovan's Mr. Great Bend, then Steve is kind of Mr. Ellenwood.
Okay.
And he's helped out at our track meets and cross country meets. So that's where I found it. So it's Miley Hansen at this school in Illinois. She played in 14 games without making a tackle. She's a pretty good little kicker. And lo and behold, here comes a kickoff. So she's 5'5", 140 pounds, gets in front of a kid who was only 145 pounds, but he trucked her, but she made the tackle, took it like a champ, and so now she's a football player.
And they did an interview with her. She's smiling, and she was having a good time. And you can see at first, she was standing way back.
Oh, she wasn't going to get involved.
She wasn't getting anywhere close, but as he broke free, she kind of wandered over, and, I don't know if she actually made the tackle as opposed to just got in the way.
She got credit.
But she got credit for it.
Her quote was, "If I'm going down, he's coming down with me."
I'm not laughing at her. It was good. I enjoyed it.
And on our way out here, let's look. KU, ESPN2, 11 o'clock tomorrow, Oklahoma, and K-State, not on TV. Looking at their own game.
I thought you said that was ABC. Okay, we're just about on time. You're listening to Sports Day. We thank you for joining us. Steve Webster will be back on Monday, and I will be out on Monday.